Good morning. Half being LUTI staff seems like the last thing I would ever do. That seems like the most unfun thing I can think of doing in the Splatoon community. Like, I can't even fathom what that's like. I cannot even fathom 24/7 help desk for 2 months. The people that DM'd LUTI staff yesterday, I get annoyed with the low ink DMs, which I got yesterday as well, but like, I couldn't even fathom. You beat Jared in solo queue. I would, you know, there was, we played, I played in Nine's Golden Graining Ground or whatever, the 30-year-old plus tournament. We had 0 on our team as our under 30-year-old. And we went undefeated. We didn't lose a single game. But every single game where it was like, oh, we don't have lead at the present moment, in the back of my mind, I was like, oh crap, if we lose this, somebody's going to be like, I beat 0, and then I'm going to feel bad, like, oh, it's my fault that somebody beat 0 in something. I can't let this happen. I don't really, no, there was one point where, in Splatoon 2, I think Obito was going for 3,000 with H3. It was like the end of the season, and they ended up on my team in solo queue, and I was like, oh, if I lose this, like, they're going to lose like 100 points, and I'm gonna be the reason that they. It's like, always love playing solo queue, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, we can't lose this one, or this is gonna be a Twitter clip. We can't let that happen. What is Popgun's list of unfun things to do in the Splatoon community? Probably see staff LUTI. Probably being on Splat Safety. That sounds extremely unfun as well. Having to constantly see messages about, oh, nobody trusts you, and every time you make a ruling on something, there's some army of kids that have a complaint about it. That seems extremely unfun. That's about it. Thank you for the subscription, King Nipple. Thank you so much. I breathe the same air as Jackpot. Can I get a DivX? I don't really know if you do breathe the same air, quite honestly. Although you can use the Jackpot's banner now. You could do that. What a flex that is. Biggest flex of all time? Question mark. Lost all your money on blackjack. That's like the only game where you have the best odds to win. That kind of sucks. It sucks for you. Was anybody genuinely mad at their div and thought they had an actual, like, legit reason? I saw people were mad for, like, oh, well, you just don't realize why you... Because I don't think that was the case. Nito, I don't want to go through like every single, oh, you did this or you did that, so that's why this got, but I'll say that you guys almost beating Foams, or I don't know if you played or not, the Gorillers almost beating Foams was very eye-opening. Persistence, yeah, Persistence deserves it. They've earned it. It's been a long time coming for them. They've had a lot of ups and downs. I remember when Persistence was in my Div 4 group back during the pandemic 4 years ago. Yeah, Div 5 hell for Lost Inklings. Fair enough. It's hard to get out of there. That jump from Div 4, or from Div 5 to Div 4 is difficult. It's hard to move up out of that div. Whereas moving up out of like Div 8 to Div 5 isn't crazy hard as long as you're actually playing tournaments outside of low level stuff. Having Synops playing in their 12th LUTI season. Here's a trivia question for you, if you know this one. There are 2 teams playing in this tournament who have the record for most LUTI appearances. There's 2 teams. This was a quiz when I had Emil on, I believe the 100th episode of the Popcast. They gave me the answer to this. Day-Old Sushi's one of them. That is correct. They're tied with this other team. Who's the other team? I'll give you a hint. The person's... I won't have to give you a hint. Epic Pikachu got it correctly. So I would assume that Teresa of Lost Inklings would hold the record for most, because the Day-Old Sushi roster's changed a lot. Sigurd doesn't play with them anymore. I'm assuming Teresa would be the single individual who's played the most LUTI seasons. That would be my guess. If there was one person. Equals was on that starting roster? Really? I didn't realize that. There can only be one. King Nipple. The king of all nipples coming through. Thank you for providing subscriptions to people. Maybe someday I should stream enough to where those things actually make sense, but thank you. King Nipple. The nippler. I used to stream this game somewhat. Those days. Those days, man. Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Popcast. Whenever you're listening to this, whether it be live or a VOD, Twitch or YouTube, or Spotify. While you are surprised that scrim results do not, in fact, count towards your LUTI seeding, begging me to allow your Div 4 team back into low ink after being banned yesterday, DMing LUTI staff members thinking that that will win them over, whatever it is that you're doing right now. Appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen to this. Unless I don't. Just for the sake of understanding that people join the community or join the competitive Splatoon scene over time and might not realize certain things. And, you know, we sit here, or I sit here and make fun of a lot of silly questions or silly comments that people make, but it's perfectly understandable for people to get into the scene to not fully understand things. So let's just explain for anybody that might be confused why scrim results are not actual things. Scrims are practice. That's all they are. Your opponent may not be using like actual comps, that they might just be experimenting with things. They might just be wanting to practice certain maps. It's not an actual tournament set. So if you were to put down a scrim result in your as like a result for your LUTI thing, like that's cool. That shows that you own the video game. But unless you actually play actual tournament sets and you win those, none of this really matters. It's we're talking about practice, man. Like, what are we talking about? So no, that is scrims are not an actual result that you can put down. A lot of people did though, and some people are a little confused about that. News of tournaments may be of interest to the casual listener of the Popcast. There are a gazillion tournaments going on. And this is something else that a lot of people might not realize if you're not a part of this competitive Splatoon community. There are a lot of tournaments that go on every single week, every single day. I counted 10 tournaments that are going on this week that cater specifically to North America time zone. 10! I believe there's one that started right now. What is the Maniac Mondays or whatever it is? This that started like 6 or 7 o'clock Eastern time. So there's plenty of stuff that goes on. But if you don't know about the Sindao.Inc. calendar, you're not going to know that any of this stuff is going on. So it's completely understandable that people wouldn't know about these kinds of things. However, the tournament that I'm going to highlight this week is LUTI Week 1. There is an actual tournament that goes along with LUTI Div, so make sure you actually play your sets. Reach out to your captain. Yes, they might be half your age, and it might be the most unfun conversation you've ever had, but you're going to have to do it 5 times, baby. You signed up for this, so go ahead and initiate contact today. Start playing your LUTI sets. I've heard a rumor that there might be a set streamed tomorrow. A like high level set being streamed tomorrow. Man, just imagine. I immediately know what my group is. Let's start playing right away. I don't need to practice these maps. Let's just go. All right, fine. Welcome to LUTI season. Today we are going to be talking about LUTI divs, including my prediction of who I think is going to win each and every single div over the course of this season. All that and more. But first, as always, if you want me to actually pay attention to something you're saying in chat, leave a highlighted message. If you have questions, like if you were to ask a question like, "Why did my team get this certain div?" I'm not going to answer that. Not because, well, I don't care. I'll be honest. But the main reason is I don't remember. 550 teams. I don't recall what it was about your team particular that made you what div, whatever. Like, that information's already been long gone. Some of you I might recall, but like the vast majority, hell no, I don't remember any of that stuff. But if you have questions about anything or just things you want me to actually acknowledge and respond to, leave a highlighted message. As long as it's not cringe like what Nito just did. Thank you. A few weeks ago on this very podcast, I said a lot of outlandish things that I thought to be true at the time. And it turns out one of the rare instances where I was wrong about something. I said that the value of LUTI divs had gone down, that nobody outside of low level really gave a damn about them, and that less than 400 teams would sign up for LUTI. I cited examples as the plus servers, as Sindao Q points, things you could actually earn your way in, other than the whole convoluted voting system for the plus server kind of stuff. And, just the fact that there are many other alternatives to playing in LUTI. It's not the one tournament you have to play in anymore. As I just pointed out, there's 10 for North America going on alone this very week. There's tons of tournaments that cater to whatever kind of niche that you're looking for in the community. And LUTI as itself, as a concept, is a bit outdated. Well, since then, 550 teams have signed up for LUTI. A reveal show was thrown together literally last minute yesterday. It had over 1,000 live viewers. That sucker got up to 1,000. It was a show where the staff just went in there and said, here's the teams, and like didn't have anything prepared to say about any of them or anything like that. It was just last minute. That got 1,000 people watching it live. People were that interested in just seeing what the divs were. That more people watched the div reveal show than would watch a jackpot versus FT Win grand final set. Isn't that kind of strange? But that just shows I was wrong. The interest in LUTI divs is still very strong as ever, and it still captivates the entire community like never before. Fair enough. So be it. People being excited about stuff, harmless stuff, is never really frowned upon here. It just sucks because I was kind of hoping the season would be a little chill. From my perspective, right? Like, I'm not part of actual LUTI staff. Like, I would never participate in something like that. That seems like the most unfun thing you can do in the competitive Splatoon community is staff LUTI. But seed it for a week? Yeah, I could get on board with that. As long as it's not a gazillion and a half teams. And I signed up for it thinking it would be a little bit of a smaller event this time around. It was still smaller than last season. Last season was 600 plus. This season, 550 plus. So, goody. Fun times. Another stressful 1 month long or 1 week long puzzle solving period. That's kind of what it is, right? Like, if you were to be a part of the LUTI Seeding Council, I compare it to putting together a jigsaw puzzle. You got all the pieces, you have all the pieces together, and it's a massive 500 piece puzzle, and you're working with it with other people. The problem is you don't know what the picture is supposed to look like. Like, you don't know what you're actually supposed to try to put it all together to. Like, is it supposed to make a certain shape? Is it supposed to make a certain kind of picture? There's no guidance for any of this stuff. You're just putting a puzzle together, and then when the timer goes off on Sunday, you're like, this is what it looks like. Is it done? Is it good? Is it correct? I don't know. It looks good enough to me. Honestly, though, this was the best experience that I've ever had being on a LUTI Seeding Council. And I've been on the Seeding Council for the past 5-6 seasons now. I think the past 5 seasons. This is by far the best one. It was the smoothest, simplest time, despite the number of teams that have signed up for this event. It all goes down to Toasty. Shout out to Toasty, who streamlined a lot of the things that made everything easier. So if you're wondering, and I usually talk about this every time we do this, like the div recap or the LUTI seeding recap episode here on the Popcast. The process goes like this. There's a giant sheet that has all 11 members of the seeding council on it and a different tab for every single div. And what we do is we start at div X, and every individual person will seed, this is what my div X looks like. And then you move down the line. This is what my div 1, my div 8, blah, 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 so forth. So you're filling out all 550 teams, and you're just basically seeding them by yourself. And that creates your rough draft. Then when enough people get all the way through, not all 11 people go all the way down from like X down to 10, and that's fine. Like, some people we bring on just to really hyper focus div X through div 2, and there's some people we bring in just to focus on like the lower level divs. Like, there's very few people that go all the way from X all the way down, but still everybody contributes to their own kind of quadrant of the giant puzzle that we're working on there. But you need enough people to create a rough draft. And what happens is you take the average of all of those rough drafts, and that gives you the rough div estimate of everything. And then once we see that, then we start having the debate of like, okay, well, this team has to be moved up to that div, or this team's really not doing that good in weeklies as they were before. Like, if there was somebody who's good enough to take their spot, like, they should be doing that, and that team should move back down. I'm not saying they have to go down, but if somebody can take their spot, they should. To get your rough draft typed out takes a lot of time. I've talked about how it's usually a 20 to 25 hour process that I personally invest into like my portion of seeding the LUTI's things. That's a lot of time. And I've talked about before how, like, if you wanted to give it like a good effort, you need to spend like 40 to 80 hours, but I'm never doing that. And I hope nobody on the council ever does, because that's a crazy amount of time to be donating to something for a week. But if you want to give it a good solid estimate, I say 20 to 25 hours, and that is a lot of time that's being put in just to create like the rough draft. That is not even when the debates start happening. Well, thanks to Toasty, a lot of things were done with this sheet to make it a lot easier. Instead of us having to type out every team, we can just slide, like, there was like a little column to like select teams in every single thing, which made it a lot faster. Some of you use cute fonts for your names, and it makes it kind of weird, and it doesn't really like make things one-to-one. But now, like, you get to select the actual team. Everything's right there. And when you select a team, there's a separate sheet that keeps track of every single team that gets selected and what div like you put each individual team in. Like, it automatically makes that. It's such a simple thing, but I've talked in the past about how I print off every single team. Like, I have this 8-sheet like notebook kind of thing that I print off that has every single team on it. And when I place a team in, I have to go and cross them out just to make sure I don't put a team in twice, which is something you do a lot. Like, your brain just becomes mush over the week. And eventually you're putting a team in Div 8 that you also put in Div 1, and then you don't catch it until later. So a lot of just simple things Toasty did to the sheet made seeding on our end a whole lot smoother and easier, and it made things a lot faster. So typically that rough draft that I was talking about, everybody will get done with that on like Friday or Saturday morning or Saturday night, and then divs go out first thing on Sunday. That didn't happen this week. This time around, thanks to these like little time saves that Toasty was able to create, Roundy finished his rough draft of all the divs on Tuesday. Myself and a couple other folks finished on Wednesday, and then Thursday more did and Friday more did. Like, more people were able to get their individual rough drafts done a lot quicker, which gave us a better scope of what the like the overall rough draft divs look like sooner, so we could spend more time debating things, which is always the fun part of being a part of the seating council. The actual putting things together, not so much. So that's how it worked out this time around, and we got more time. And again, I didn't spend more time than what I normally do, even though there's a this huge number of teams. But because of the little innovations that Toasty added to the sheet, it saved a lot more time on the seeding part and made things less stressful, made things less deadline-ish, because we're able to move like at our own pace without having to slow down of looking at a sheet. Did I seed Impulse in here somewhere? I forgot about them. Let me flip through to the eyes. Nope, found them. Seeded them a long time ago. I can move on. Whew. We had some good debates, too. There was a lot of really good stuff. A lot of good conversations. I love the seating council we had this time around. We had a lot of, it is fair to say that we had a lot of NA people a part of the seating council. I believe WUG was the only EU representative that we had. And I know that's a narrative people are trying to create on Twitter, that there is some sort of like NA bias towards these things. I don't really think that was the case. Now, given that there's so many NA folks on the seating council, I don't blame you for trying to play that card, but it's not like we look at these, like, I don't know who the vast majority of these teams are. Like, I recognize some names, but the pickups and stuff, like, I don't know what region these teams are from, and I don't just purposely go, EU, I think less of these guys, or something like that. I will say though, it would be nice to have more of a spread. We didn't have anybody from OCE. We didn't have anybody from SA, South America. We didn't have anybody who is a part of the CCA. But regardless of that, I feel like we hit those three regions really well. In the past, we really screwed up OCE, and those teams punished us for it, making grand finals in like every single div that the OCE players got placed into. I feel like we got them right this time around, though. The CCA, I know in the past we've kind of screwed up, but there's more college teams playing in tournaments outside of the CCA, so it makes that a little bit easier to pick up on. And there, from what I've heard LUTI staff say, not a lot of people in Europe applied to be a part of the seeding council, or if they did, they didn't really have a lot of resume and or experience. So it's just a question of, would you want to make sure that, okay, we got every single region represented, or would you rather just have 11 people that know what they're doing? Now, the counter argument to that, and this is definitely something we should be mindful of as a community as far as diversity is concerned, is making sure that we have people from a bunch of other different regions that know how to seed teams, that have that kind of experience to do that. But the issue is now the scene is moving to be much more automated. We don't do seeding for Proving Grounds anymore. We fired Roundy from Proving Grounds because we didn't need him anymore. The bot does all the seeding for us. Eventually Loink will be the same way when that moves over to Sindao. So like seeding is just becoming a lost art in general. So it's going to be hard to like train people how to seed teams in like different regions. But still, I feel like even though we didn't have a lot of representation about that, each region was given a fair shake, and there was no like particular bias towards like one region or the other. It's just, what are the results that you have to look at? Cool, we'll plug him in there. It just so happened that DivX is perfectly 6 NA and 6 EU. It wasn't designed by that at all. So it's just kind of like a mini tassel going on in DivX, but it just kind of worked out that way. Overall, love the people of the seeding council. I feel like the guys we brought in just to do like the higher level stuff brought some really good insight to the table. Wug was the MVP of the entire week. Like I said, Roundy was the first person to handle things. Price has a ton of experience with this as well. But Wug should definitely be like a permanent member of that seeding council if they want it, because they did a fantastic job over the course of this week. Still, though, despite all the cool things, I always like to give a little shout out to the silly stuff that take place here. Even though you got this new registration form that required you to put down something in the results column, you couldn't just leave that blank anymore, even though some teams still did find a way to leave it blank. You could link send out bios that made it a lot easier for us to find exact information that we needed about each team. Despite all of that good updating of the registration form, there's still always room for silliness. And it came from the registration or the port where you could put down your results. Of course, you always get the team that put down div estimates. Well, we estimate ourselves to be this certain div. I don't think a single team that estimated themselves to be a certain div got anywhere close to that div that they estimated. You had a team that said, we beat this other team in a scrim, and they said they estimated to be this certain div, so we think we should be this div based off of us, how we compared against them in that div. And it's like, you don't realize both of you are going to get under div from what your estimate is. I don't know how to explain to you that estimates don't really hold any weight in reality, but there you go. Obviously, you had some teams put down some scrim results. One team put replay codes for their scrim that they had against another team. And I, honest to God, was going to give them a fair shot. I was like, you took the time to look up replay codes for the scrim that you had. So I'm going to watch one. I was gonna pick a Clan Blitz game because I didn't want to see any more Tower Control Auto Academy. I was gonna watch a Clan Blitz game. I'm not gonna like there's nothing I can do with this, but you put the time to put it in there, so I'm gonna watch it. They by the time we got that information, there was a new patch out, so I couldn't watch it. But you had a team that did that, so there you go. You had a team that went. They were trying to like explain their losses. Like they went 0-2 and they put down like we lost to this team 0-2, but it was because this happened, or like if you see this result, just know here's what actually happened. Like we didn't actually lose to these guys. Like they were trying to defend themselves from losses before we even looked at them. Black Lotus, here's what Black Lotus put down in their results. Quote, we got enough results to be DivX, LOL, end quote. They were right. If you have noticed, Black Lotus is our number 1 overall seed across all the teams that signed up. So fair enough. They basically just said we're DivX, and we're just like, yeah, you're right. Cool. We didn't need to waste time thinking about anything else with that. You're right. There's this team, bless their heart. They put down every result they had where they finished like dead last in every single tournament they played in. And they put after every single tournament in all capital letters, we got owned. It's like, okay, I got you. I'll put you in Div 10. I got you. Don't worry. I understand you're having a rough time. I'll do what I can to help you out. We'll put you in the absolute worst div. One team put down, for whatever reason in their results, quote, we will follow and abide by the transfer rules this season, end quote. I don't know what that was about. I don't know if they got in trouble for transferring last season or something like that, but they wanted to make sure that LUTI staff was aware we're not going to cheat. So if there's any team I'm going to be keeping my eyes on, it's that team over the course of the season, because they're up to something right there. Last but certainly not least, I got to give a shout out to my favorite result that I saw in here. I'm not going to name who, but one team did put down as a result being one of the top 10 teams in my LUTI my low ink top 10 list. They legit put down Pop Gun once put us down at like number 8 in a top 10 list. Like, all right. I did. I mean, they weren't lying. Now, you gotta take the result thing with a grain of salt. All right. There's some people that straight up lie. Like they'll say we beat this one team, and you're like, no, you didn't. Like that's not what actually happened right there. But the result things are important because it gives us a quick snapshot of where you are. What we do initially when we do our rough draft is look at the results that you provide and also look through your send-out bio and try to find more information about you to get like a better idea of like, are you like, do you have other results you're not telling us about? Like you're only telling us your highlights. What are your lowlights? We're going to try to find that. And we're trying to get the whole information about you. We'll put you in a div and then we'll move on. Well, 4 days later, we're going to look back over a div and we're going to be in a situation where we're like, oh crap, we missed this team. I got to put them in div 2. And that means I got to move like 7 teams down to make room for them. Who's this team again? Like I seeded them in div 2, but I completely forgot why. Why did I do that? Then we go back and look at your little snapshot thing to see what your highlights are that you are saying about yourself. And that's where we second grade you that time around. And if a lot of you did not get the div that you wanted, I promise you it's because your captain really sucked at putting down results and really failed at like presenting yourself as a team to the world. Yes, there's information this council can find, but we look back over you several times and we look at that in that result column. And if your results are not that good, we're going to be like, wait, why did we even put them in div 2? And we don't have time to like reteach ourselves all the information that we found on you earlier, because that's just like our brains are just going to explode if we do that again. So a lot of you really sucked at putting down information versus some of you who literally put down like an entire paragraph of chapters of everything that your team has done and all your results. It's like, okay, cool. This gives us a lot to look at right off the bat. Those are super easy. But if you didn't get the div that you wanted, I would ask your captain what they put down in the results section, because odds are they kind of failed at that kind of department. But overall, I think the results of this of the seeding season worked out really well. Did anyone actually complain? I saw like 2, but again, most of the tweets that I've seen have something that I already covered in my tweet that I put out on Saturday of like, here's what people are going to complain about. They complain about that same exact stuff. Like that's nothing new. And the rest of the tweets, again, just kind of comes down to, what did your captain put down in the results section? Because now you're telling us all these things after you got the div. Why didn't you say that as you signed up initially? Or link your send out bio or anything like that. I will say this. I think even if you have like 10 teams that legit are like, oh crap, we've missed these guys, they need to be somewhere else. Even if that was the case, that means 99% out of 100 of these teams are somewhat accurate. That's pretty good. That's a pretty good number, right? Like, I feel like that's a pretty good percentage. Can't really argue with that. When you have something that is run by human volunteers, I feel like that is insanely good. In fact, I'll go on record saying this. It is humanly impossible, using the method that we've been using the seed teams ever since I've been a part of this, to make a more accurate seeding of all 550 teams combined. It cannot be more accurate than what we've done using the same process that we have. Does that to say that this is the best individual process that can be used? No. But I think with human, as long as the human factor is a part of it, this is as good as what we can come up with. I'll give you a comparison, though, of how I think things could be better. If you were to watch a Major League Baseball broadcast of any MLB team, what they show you on that broadcast is the strike zone. The perfect little box right there, live time, and you can tell from sitting on your couch if a pitch is either a strike or ball, and you can call a game perfectly from that stance. Everybody on planet Earth can see that little virtual strike zone, and they're always extremely accurate. You know who's the one person who can't see that strike zone, though? The only person who can actually make a call of ball or strike, the umpire. The umpire's sitting behind there and basically like guesstimating, I think that was a ball. And if they're wrong, millions of people watching that game can instantly point out, hey, that person's an idiot. They got it wrong. Like, we already know that that should have been a ball or strike. It's so ridiculous why they would allow that to be a thing if the technology exists to show where the strike zone's actually supposed to be. Like, oh, we want to keep the human element in umpiring. Okay, yeah. That's how you get Angel Hernandez, who is thankfully retired and gone from Major League Baseball. But that's what the human element gives you. But it doesn't, it blows my mind. Why would you put the strike zone up for us to see if you're not going to allow the umpires to do it? Like, that's just setting them up for failure. And as I'm watching send-out tournaments while seeding was going on, I kind of got that same sense. Like, these send-out tournaments are showing everybody what the strike zone is, but we on the LUTI Council are just kind of trying to do the same thing. We're trying to call balls and strikes without that strike zone. I had a team in my original Div 1, but then I looked at the seeding on a send-out tournament, and it was like, wait a minute, that team I got in my Div 1, they're seated like 20 spots below this other team that I got like in Div 3. Like, oh, what am I missing here? Like, I'm looking at the results it presented and all this stuff, but the send-out bot has them like way over here and something like that. And then you look deeper into them and you're like, oh, wait, I'm really off with this. Let me go back and fix that. My point being, eventually, this seeding is going to be more automated than what it's ever been before. The technology already exists. If you play in a send-out tournament, your seed is automated. It's based off of what your send-out queue points are at the time. Now, TOs can go back and adjust things, and we try to do that. Oh, Jackpot hasn't played anything this season. I can't let them be the bottom seed. Let me move them up to the top. But that is kind of where we're heading with these things. I wouldn't be surprised that if in the next season or a season going down the line, Sindao reaches out and connects with LUTI and is like, what if I just created something that generates that list of LUTI teams for you in the order that they probably should be in? It might not be like, oh, well, let's just press the button. Here's what the final divs are. But I could see a future to where a lot of this is automated. Instead of signing up through Challenge or whatever you do to sign up for LUTI, you have to sign up through Sindao. And then instead of me spending 20 hours hand making my rough draft, we just hit a button and we spend 2 seconds making the rough draft. And then we can spend the rest of the week of the seating council looking at what the Sindao bot creates as like the projected divs. And then we can go through that and be like, okay, these guys need to go up. These guys need to go down. Let's watch what this team does this week because they're like a bubble team that could go either up or down. Like that would save so much time and give us so much more of an opportunity to debate things instead of those 20 to 25 hours we spend melting our minds out looking at scrim result VODs. Like that could be the future of what LUTI seeding was going to be. Now, if that was the case, people are still going to complain. Like it doesn't matter what version of reality you show people, it's never going to align with their version of reality, which is why you got people still upset about div estimates and people who are like, well, this is goofy. The seeding council came out with these. And it's like, have you seen your own results yet? Like this is a reality check for some of you because a lot of these divs are getting pretty close to being accurate as possible, but there is another step beyond. So if you don't like how the divs are kind of made up right now, it could be different in the future. The technology already exists. It might not exist to the level of 550 teams, but that's just something to kind of keep an eye on in the future. But that won't change the issue of everything, right? Divs are still updated once a year. Once a year. And people are going to take the divs they got yesterday and not realize that the value of those divs have already diminished today. And they're going to be more diminished tomorrow. And sure as hell, by the end of the group stage, the divs aren't even going to be relevant anymore. Everybody that makes the playoffs, you can make the point of, well, a month now, they're so much better than what they were. Are they even the same team at this point? Loxier, Strawberry Soda, Zest Fest, those teams a month from now on the projection that they're going, they might not even be the Div 4 or the Div 3 teams that they are right now. Like they're accelerating so quickly. But because we're always going to look at that number they got on June the 9th, 2024, we're going to use that as a Div estimate. Oh, I beat Loxier. That means I'm automatically estimated Div 2. My point being, the excitement of LUTI Divs is still there. And I completely understand it. And for the people that are excited that they get to show growth, I think that's awesome. I did the same thing with Destiny Troops. It's cool to see chart your own climb just through the LUTI thing alone. There's still much more accurate ways of grading your team and yourself as an individual against other people in this community. And there's going to be more automated ways to see that in the future. So don't let these get to you. If you don't like the div that you got, good news. They're just opinions. Tournament results are fact. And you still got many opportunities to claim more results, including with what you do in LUTI. There's a few highlighted stuff. I don't know if they got bumped by Angel Hernandez stuff. Hyperstar. In my opinion, one thing that keeps LUTI special compared to other tournaments is how community-centered and inclusive it feels. It feels very easy to see a team and cheer for it during LUTI. Stuff like fantasy bracket. Yeah, exactly. The fact that it's a month and a half long spectacle makes it a lot. I mean, the rivalries that form from these things, all the trash talking, Shush and Monsoon are playing this week, right? They're week 1 opponents. I'm very interested in watching that set. And there's several other matches. Like there's storylines that come from LUTI, which is great. Which is also kind of annoying why people disband as soon as they get a div, because it's like you're still missing the point. But whatever. Mid X4 opinion on the people who get a div and drop from LUTI. I don't care. I mean, it's not. You know, I used to have the mindset of, man, I'm putting in all this hours and you're not even going to attempt to play week 1. But that's not my job. My job is just to help create the divs, and what people do with the divs afterwards is up to them. And I don't, everybody's story is a little bit different. It could be, you don't want to sit here and judge a team dropping immediately because it's like, oh, well, you got the div you didn't want, so that means you're going to disband. It could be just like, I don't know what everyone's personal situation is, so I don't really care. I don't care, to be honest with you. That's my answer. I don't really have an opinion because I don't care. Do mid-level teams, what is mid-level? In Sindao tournaments have their auto-generated seeds adjusted at all, or mostly just completely left to the auto-generated? Yeah, I can only speak for myself in Proving Grounds. It's weird at the beginning of the season. You can also seed based off of points from the previous season. I hit the bot and I let it auto seed itself with Proving Grounds, and we still eyeball it. If there's anything that seems really out of line, we'll make the adjustment. So it's not like 100% what the bot always says, but the vast majority of the time we go with what the bot kind of auto generates. When you do it like that, you don't have to close registration early. Stormy keeps signing up for Proving Grounds 5 minutes before round 1, and I'm able to just kind of seed it. Beforehand, we'd have to close registration an hour before, so that's one of the other additional benefits of doing things like that. This is from Nito. My stance is that looting seeding will inevitably become more automated because it will be through Sindao or something else. The human element, however, cannot be left out of it. You got to make sure you still have that. The human element will always be there. But if at this point, if you could automate the rough draft, if you could take those 2 hours that we spend and just crunch that down to like a handful of seconds, that would save us so much more time, and we could spend a lot more time. If we could just spend the whole week just being like, they should go up, they should go down, like that would be awesome. Because that rough draft thing is rather annoying. Roundy says, I'd rather teams drop than attempt to reschedule. Yeah, that's honestly, I say I don't care because I'm not playing, but that's a good point, Roundy. Like if you're in a, here's some unsolicited advice if you're actually playing a LUTI this season. Do not allow your opponent to use a replay week 1. If you are scheduling with your opponent and they're like, we're not going to be available, replay, and like, no, do not allow them to do that. Like, be a douche. Like, I'm openly telling you this because if you use your replay in week 1, what's going to happen in week 2 when your opponent's like, oh, we can only play on Tuesday at 4 a.m? Okay, well, I already used my replay, so I guess I'm playing you at Tuesday and 4 a.m. Like, you have to drag your other opponent to a battle with you, and don't let them burn that replay early. Save your replay for as long as possible. If you use your replay in week 1, you are going to have a miserable time this LUTI season. I promise you. Don't let that happen. Stand up for your team. Stand up for your team. Do not allow your other opponent to just walk all over you with their horrible schedule. If you're playing a team that only has 4 players on their roster, that is a giant red flag. That is a giant red flag. Let's recap the week. Paddling pool number 270 was won by Celeste. Second place went to I'm Losing My Marbles. Aren't we all? And third place went to NFT Gold. Do you want to see more Celeste? Because I certainly do. The team that finished in second place in the Sindao Q season finale, winning paddling pool, a golden paddling pool that had a special badge and had 41 teams playing in it, hoping to increase their LUTI odds, except for Celeste. They weren't playing in this LUTI season. SOS number 150 took place on last Wednesday night. Harshy Pickup, aka Catnip, just call yourself that, that's most of your members are, took first place. I Eat Clash Blaster finished in second place, and Denny's Regulars, a much more delicious meal, rounds out your top three. Another 70-team SOS, the second biggest of all time. We'll see if it's still that big this week now that there's less teams that are looking for a LUTI div and everyone's going to be playing their sets. It is summertime, though, so we do see a lot of uptick in tournament participation in the summertime. Hammerhead bracket was won by Resonance. Mako bracket was won by Bring Out the Lobster. Bring out the dancing lobsters. And Lantern bracket was won by Splat Landers. On Saturday, Minnow Cup number 33 took place. It was won by Inkception. Second place went to 3 times Blake and 1 time Tubby. And third place went to Peace Strikers. This was a Rainmaker-only tournament. Congratulations to Inkception for winning their first tournament that wasn't a smaller div or under div in a low ink. 23 teams played in this tournament, so not the biggest Minnow Cup of all time, but still, it was considered for seeding. Any tournament that took place on Saturday was still considered for seeding. I don't think any Sunday tournaments were considered. At some point, you just got to cut it off and actually just start throwing the seeds out there. The Girls Duo Cup took place on Saturday as well. It was won by Cat Demon Nip, which was made up of Vanessa, Twig, Luna, 5th Gen, and Zenith. Second place went to Eclipse Transitioned, which was a team made up of Goose, Roomba, Lux, and Riza. And third place went to Collect My Pronouns, Amnesia, -C, Izu, and Rosie makes up that team. 38 teams made up this annual event, or is it a semi-annual event? We stand the Girls Duo Cup. My wife has played in it before in the past, and it is a fantastic event. I'm glad Dapple Productions continues to run it on a regular basis. The Collegiate Crossfire Tournament from the CCA took place on June the 8th. The CCA collaborated with TOs and teams from the National Splatoon or National Student Esports, which runs a collegiate Splatoon league in the UK for the Collegiate Crossfire. The top 4 teams from each league participated in an invitational this last Saturday under the banner of friendly competition and camaraderie between the two organizations. Here are the results. In Top Cuts, this tournament was won by PSU Blue from Penn State University. In second place was KCLC Lions from King College London. And the VCU Big Fat Sea Cows took third place. Silver bracket was won by UCSD Esports. Gold. For more of the CCA, follow their social media at Twitter, CCA_Splatoon, Twitch at twitch.com.tv/CCA Splatoon. And that was your weekly recap. Sponsored by LUTI Tonight. Are you looking to get your set streamed? Get some eyeballs on your LUTI set. Hey, it's not just about the div. Can you actually play in these things? Go to the Splatoon 30 Twitter. There is a form there where you can apply to have your tournament streamed and commentated by the best streaming and commentating organization production company that covers LUTI specific stuff. LUTI Tonight. Tomorrow, the official sponsor of today's segment of the weekly recap. All right. In the past, I have done an entire episode dedicated to LUTI predictions. And if you look at the VODs on YouTube, those are the most popular episodes that I've done. I think because everybody goes back and watches after the end of the season to see how horribly awful that I messed up. I would predict every single group of every single div, like who I would think would win every single group. I'm not doing that. I tried to sit down and do it a couple of seasons ago when it was like 400 teams, and I was like, this is going to take 2 hours. I can't do this. So here's what I'm going to do. I have the divisions right here, and chat is going to go away for the YouTube audience. You don't want to see what they have to say anyways. And I'm going to give you the team that I think is going to win each and every single one of these divs. And I might be wrong, but who cares? I could be right. Div X. Only 12 teams played in this Div X. By the way, the Div X wasn't that hard to figure out. The monsters aren't here. There's no jackpot. There's no starburst. There's no FT win. Are these strong, solid teams? Yes, these are. Are these, when you say a Div X team, you're not talking about the best teams in competitive Splatoon. Let's just be real. There is another division above this called Div X Plus, and there was a season where there was a Div X Plus that was ran. There are no Div X Plus teams signed up for this tournament. So Div X, to its credit, is going to be more wide open than what it's ever been. There's not going to be like the obvious winner and then a race for second place. I don't think there is an obvious winner right here. I am going to go with Black Lotus or Fruitella as my winners. I'm going to double down with Black Lotus, the number 1 overall seed. I think Punchy still plays with Fruitella. I don't know. I thought this team disbanded or something, or somebody left. But still, if the same Fruitella that's been winning every paddling pool they feel like winning signs up for this one, I think they can challenge Black Lotus. But I think this is an EU Punchy's with Golden Time. I'm still going to go with Fruitella. I think this is a very EU-heavy Div X. I think Shush might end up being the best NA team. I know Osmosis has a goated roster, but I think they need more time in the oven. And I'm not, it's good for Foams and Healthy Diet to be up here. They deserved it. Foams winning that tournament, Toasties tournament last Wednesday was a huge factor in being like, no, actually, I'll humble brag here. I had Foams in my Div X before they won that tournament. And when they did, I was able to go, see, I was on to something. It would have been weird if they lost that tournament, though. But I think Black Lotus wins this one, maybe Fruitella. I'll go with that. Choo Choo might be the best NA team as well, but NA is still kind of a mystery right here. I think EU is going to be the stronger region in Div X. Division 1, Catnip was debated heavily to be into Div X. There was a lot of heated conversation about that. For me personally, I'm not speaking for all 11 members. For me personally, I look at their set against Foams in the unnamed tournament. I believe it was semifinals where they lost 3-1. And I say if they are a Div X team, that was their opportunity to show it. And they didn't show it. So that was kind of my cutoff between them and Catnip and Healthy Diet. Do I think they're going to win Div 1? I think they're the favorite, but I don't know if they're going to win, not because I don't like them or think that they're good or anything like that. They're a really damn good team at this video game. Div 1 is just loaded. It is absolutely loaded. Helios might be my favorite to go in and win this one. Also, Super Velocity should be a contender for these things as well. And there's also a lot. Paracel had a lot of Div X conversation about them. Dwayne beats Monsoon. They beat they beat Monsoon or Osmosis. I think they beat Osmosis in a mode cup. So you got a lot of really strong teams here. Every time I pick Catnip, they always burn me. So I'm going to roll the dice and say the dark horse of Helios. If they played the way that they did in Flutie, they can find a way to get past some of these teams and they'll win this one. That might be a controversial take, but hey, I'm on the seeding council and you're not. What are you going to do about it? Div 2. I like the Splatoon Club Barcelona team. Where are they? Did they drop already? No, there they are. They're right down here in the middle of this thing. I like the Splatoon Club Barcelona team to be competitive and really good in this one. I'm surprised Smoking Moeyes was up here. Like, I still remember them as the team that was winning low ink, and now they're all the way up here in Div 2. So I must have missed what they got to get up to that point. But the team I think is going to surprise everybody, or maybe not surprise everyone. The team that I'm going to double down on right now is the Last Supper. This is the Monster OCE team that's in this div, and this is loaded with teams that are players that got under-dived last season, and they made us pay for it. So I'm going to catch it early right now. I'm going to say the Last Supper wins Division 2 over the Bad Piggies, who's a really strong team. Division 3, and this is loaded. This is loaded as well. Triggerfish Zone Supremacy is probably the team that has the biggest gripe of how could we not be in Div 2 even though we made playoffs in Division 2 last season? Well, we'll see. The recent results make it a little bit suspicious, but they're going to be given their opportunity to flex over a lot of up and coming rising team. Like a lot of these teams were in low ink not just a year ago. Some of these teams were in low ink like a couple of months ago. And now here you got an opportunity to go up against a veteran team trying to knock them down off the pedestal. LUTI is going to be really strong. They're going to be even better over the course of a month. WD-40, I miss what they did recently. I know Strawberry Soda is really good. I mean, they proved it by not playing. They should not have been playing in low ink, and they made the right call. They're getting Div 3 right here. This is just loaded with the next generation of best players coming up through here. And I don't know if Triggerfish can hold all of them off. So I'm going to say it's going to come down to Overtime and LUTI. Overtime is another team you could have made the case to move up, but this isn't Little Boy Squad. This is Overtime that they're playing as. And we haven't seen Overtime play as a team enough to kind of justify being above this right here. I'll go with Overtime as the team that escapes this group and tries to do in Triggerfish Zone Supremacy. Division 4, and you got some teams that have moved down into Division 4. They didn't hold their spot. They got overtaken by the LUTIs, the Overtimes, the WD-40s, the Rising Stars, the Strawberry Sodas. They stole spots that belong to some of these teams. Secret Elixir is going to be playing this div with a little bit something to prove. They were div seed the season before. Acidity, is that the team over here? I've seen them tweet out some stuff about what their results are, and it seems like on paper they're probably the best team that's in Division 4. Did we miss them? Before you say we missed them, how did they end up in Division 4? Ask their captain what they put down in their results section. Just ask. See what kind of response you get with that. But none of those teams are going to win it. Here's who's going to win Div 4. Matter of opinion is going to take this div, baby. It's going to happen. Division 5. The Jelly Squids are going to have a chip on their shoulder going into this one, as is Blake Spruter. Blake Spruter's probably looking at Division 4 and saying, wait a minute, just squidding, solo queue, where were the other teams? Blaze got in here, like Zest Fest. All of those teams that we were playing in Alpha Bracket got into Division 4, and we're still stuck here in Division 5. So Blake Spruter, you telling me they're not going to be playing pissed off this season? I bet you they are. And I'm going to predict that Blake Spruter is the team that wins Division 5 if it wasn't for Clairvoyance being a part of this division as well. Clairvoyance, are they still here? I don't even see Clairvoyance anymore. I had them down in my notes. They didn't drop, did they? Or am I just like obviously missing them? No, there they are. There they are. Clairvoyance is going to win this div. That's who I'm predicting is going to win Div 5. They dropped? Okay, full disclaimer, I don't know who it is and hasn't dropped. So I'm just going by on paper. Clairvoyance would win this one if they're actually playing in Division 5. They're still here on this sheet. Division 6. This is another kind of interesting div. I like the fact that Lemon Cider is here. Lemon Cider just won Little Squid League before this one. That's a huge reason why they ended up here. Hydra Screen OP. If you don't know who these guys are, they listed in their results, and we went back and looked at it. It is true. They won Division 5. Well, how can you win Division 5 and be a Division 6 team? They won Division 5 back in 2018. So it was 6 years ago, depreciating value over the course of time, and they haven't really done a whole lot since. So the Hydra Screen OP is like a total wild card to go with that. But I will say this. The team I'm predicting with Div 6, give me the Origami Dragons, baby. Their time is coming. They are going to have an opportunity to win this one, and they're going to take advantage of it. Their time is now. Origami Dragons wins Div 6. By the way, if you're curious who the very last team that got shifted around before divs came out. I will reveal it was Seasick. Seasick originally was in Div 7, and then I was like, wait. Before these go live, move Seasick into Div 6, because that's where they deserve to be. I'm not going to say who got moved out to make room for them, but Seasick officially was the very last team to get moved around before divs came out. Division 7. Blitzwave is probably going to be the team that ends up winning this division, but I would not count out the Villain Academy. The Villain Academy is a team loaded with people that are at least 30 years or older, because they all played in the Golden Grading Grounds, and they finished in, I believe they finished in 3rd place behind a bunch of us upper skill level 30-year-olds that probably should not have added 0 to our team. But still, the Villain Academy is going to be a solid team to move in here if they can find a way to get past Blitzwave, which is going to be a difficult thing for a lot of teams to do. Division 8. Now, this gets broken down into 2 different divisions going forward. You got one div being the Americas, and the other div being everyone who's unfortunate enough to not be in the Americas. So I'm going to do Div 8A, the team that I'm going to have winning this one, and it's going to get a little bit weird because I'm just being honest here. Division 8 through Division 10 is very hard to split hairs between, because most of these teams only have results in low-level tournaments against each other, and you have 96 teams total in each div. It's hard to kind of draw that line between what have they done to separate themselves from these other 96. So if you're in Div 8 or 9, and you're like, I want to be in Div 8, like, don't be too upset about it. Like, any Div 9 team can beat any Div 8 team. Like, nobody's going to think less of you. And if they do, they don't know what they're talking about. So, with that being said, Div 8A, the winner of this one is going to be Kiwi Ice Cream. Not because that ice cream flavor is good. It sounds kind of gross, actually. But I think they're the best team within this Div 8A. In the world of Div 8, I'm going to go with Zomersite over Ufish. Zomersite, I feel like, has been slipping a little bit, but I know what their potential is, and they are a really old team, just like Ufish is, but I feel like Zomersite's going to get the job done here in Division 8 of the world. Division 9 of the Americas, I'm going to go with Inc. 95, because I hear they make really good, they have really good bread that they made at at Low Tide City, and Chino's just an awesome person all around. In the world region, I'm going to go with RIT Tiger Prawn as my pick to win Div 9 in the world. And that was really the only team that really stood out to me as like, oh, they have potential to do this. 6-pack yolks, I hope they do. And if they do, I'm going to wear my jersey the very next day and say that I always predicted them. But I'm going with RT Tiger Prawn in Div 9 in the world. Real quick for Div 10. So why is there not a Div 11 if there's that many teams? I think it's just so that Div 10 could be like the even number. I originally made a Div 11, and as you recall, my Div 10 are the teams that actually have something, and there's proof that they just need more time to play. They need to play in LUTI to get more results. Versus Div 11, which is the teams that put, well, I don't know, or like just like they're either alting or we have no clue if they actually own a copy of the video game, or they straight up just told us like, we suck. And it was like, all right, you go in this Div 11. So Div 10 is a mix of teams that are actually like Div 10 skill level that need more experience and can improve a lot. And it sucks because they're mixed in there with basically who knows who in Div 11. So Div 10 becomes like the semi-Wild West, which kind of sucks for a lot of the true Div 10 teams. But hey, there's only so much you can do. You figure that out. So this is going to be for fantasy brackets. Div 10 is going to be where like you make up tiebreakers, because this is truly just a pick 'em for who you think is going to win it. In Div 10 Americas, I'm going to go with the Arrows of Lightning. And in Div 10 the world, I'm going to go with the Arrows of Gale. That's right. I'm calling for an arrow sweep of Div 10, because the Arrow clan is not going to allow both Lightning and Gale to underrepresent in the bottom div in LUTI. They're going to get the job done. It's going to be an arrow sweep in Division number 10. What did he say about Division 3? Rewind the VOD. He didn't mention my team. There's 550 teams. I can't talk about all 550 teams, all right? I can't say all of you are going to win. I can't love all of you equally. It's not possible. Falco says, motion to call the lowest div open. It's misleading to call them the lowest. So Division 11, I had a separate name for it in the seating council last year. My Division 11 I called Div Go F Yourself, because you're there because you really screwed up at signing up for things. So Division 10 is still technically the lowest. We're not pulling our punches here. They are the bottom div statistically. If you want to call it open, you can. Is that it? Are we done? I think we're done here. I'm done. I'm certainly done. That's all that matters. Play your LUTI sets this week. Do not use your replay. Do not use play your set this week. Force your opponent to play against you this week. Do not use your replay in week 1. You will not make it through the season. You'll be playing 6 sets during your makeup week. I promise you, if you don't. That being said, if you'd like to be a part of the podcast in any way, feel free to reach out on my socials below. Twitter, Mr._Popgun, Discord, Popgun, hashtag, no hashtags anymore. YouTube at 25Popgun, Twitch at Popgun25, Anchor.fm/Popgun. Let's go to It's Ahmed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 D's. New father Popgun advocates for skipping Father's Day to play with LUTI. I will be skipping LUTI this weekend. And I don't know. We didn't really do much on Mother's Day because we were at Low Tide City. It doesn't feel fair to do things on Father's Day. Nothing much you can do. He's a baby. All he does is spit on me. I love him, though. Get vaccinated. Stay safe. Enjoy your first week of LUTI.